The restaurant Bella Vita was bustling on that Friday night in Atlanta. The tables were full, orders were piling up, and the sounds of laughter and conversation filled the air. Among the servers darting back and forth, Jonathan stood out, not only for his efficiency but also for being the only black employee in a predominantly white restaurant. Jonathan, a 32-year-old man with a tall, calm demeanor, always had a warm smile on his face. Despite facing subtle prejudices daily, he had a unique way of handling it, by providing the best service possible. That night, he noticed a new customer struggling at the entrance. A young woman in a wheelchair was trying to navigate the heavy door. Without hesitation, Jonathan set down the tray he was carrying and moved toward the door. With a gentle gesture, he opened it and crouched slightly to meet her eye level. "Good evening," he said with a warm smile. "Can I help you get inside?" Lily, a 28-year-old woman with blonde hair and clear blue eyes, looked at him with a mix of surprise and relief. She was used to managing on her own, but in that moment, she accepted his help with gratitude. "Thank you so much," she replied with a small smile. "I was starting to think I'd be stuck outside all night." Jonathan chuckled softly, carefully guiding her wheelchair into the restaurant. "That wouldn't be fair," he joked. "Let me find you a nice table." He led her to a table by the window, where the view of the city lights created a cozy ambience. Jonathan adjusted the wheelchair gently and made sure Lily was comfortable before handing her the menu. "If you need anything, I'll be around," he said, maintaining his smile. "Enjoy your dinner, miss." Lily looked at Jonathan, sensing the sincerity in his words. He wasn't treating her with pity, but with respect and empathy, something she rarely experienced. As he walked away, she watched him for a moment, intrigued by the kindness he displayed in an environment where superficiality often prevailed. During her meal, Jonathan checked on Lily a few times, always making sure she had everything she needed. They exchanged smiles and polite words, but it was at the end of the evening that their interaction deepened. When Jonathan saw her struggling again with the wheelchair, he approached without hesitation. "Can I assist you one more time?" he offered, with the same gentleness as before. Lily nodded, feeling more at ease with his presence. When they reached the door, she paused and looked directly into Jonathan's eyes. "Thank you, really. It's not every day I meet someone so considerate," she said sincerely. Jonathan smiled, touched by the gratitude in her voice. "I'm glad I could help," he replied. "And if you ever need anything, I'll be here." Lily smiled back and waved as he held the door open for her. As she finally left, Jonathan watched her for a moment. He didn't realize it then, but that simple act of kindness would mark the beginning of a friendship that would change their lives forever. And so, Jonathan returned to the restaurant's bustling activity, but now with a subtle feeling that something different was on the horizon. In the following days, Jonathan couldn't stop thinking about Lily. There was something about her that intrigued him, an inner strength mixed with a vulnerability he rarely found in his patrons. However, he knew that the world of a server rarely intersected with the world of a customer, so he put his thoughts aside and went back to his work at Bella Vita. On a sunny afternoon, just before dinner time, Jonathan was setting up the tables in the empty dining room when the restaurant door opened. He looked up and saw Lily again, her wheelchair making a soft squeak on the polished floor. Jonathan instantly smiled, surprised and pleased to see her. "Hello, miss," he greeted, with the same warmth as before. "It's great to see you again. Are you here for dinner?" Lily returned the smile, but there was a hesitation in her eyes. "Actually, I was just passing by. But since I'm here, I thought I might have a coffee, if it's not too much trouble." Jonathan noticed there was something different in her tone, but didn't want to push her. "Of course, it's no trouble at all. I'll get you a fresh coffee," he said, gesturing to a table by the window. As Jonathan prepared the coffee, Lily gazed out the window, seemingly lost in thought. When he returned with the cup, she thanked him with a smile that seemed forced, as if she was struggling with something internally. "What brings you here so early?" Jonathan asked, curious but keeping his tone light. Lily sighed before answering, looking at him as if deciding whether to open up. "You know, Jonathan, sometimes we need a place where we can feel good, even if just for a moment. This place, the way you treated me the other night, made me feel that way." Jonathan paused, feeling the weight of her words. He wasn't used to hearing his customers talk about their personal lives, but there was something about Lily that made him want to know more. "I'm glad you felt that way," he replied calmly. "We all need a place like that from time to time, and if this place can be that for you, I'm honored." Lily gave a faint smile, clearly appreciative of his understanding. After a moment of silence, she finally asked, "Jonathan, what's it like working here? I mean, being different from the others?" Jonathan wasn't surprised by the question. He knew his presence was noticeable and rarely commented on, but never with the same sincerity Lily was showing now. "It's challenging at times," he admitted, "but I try not to focus on that. At the end of the day, my job is to make everyone who walks through that door feel welcome. And if I can do that, then I feel like I'm making a difference, even if it's a small one." Lily nodded, absorbing his words. "I get that, the need to make a difference. I think that's what brought me here today," she said, looking at the coffee cup in her hands. Jonathan sensed there was more she wasn't saying, but chose not to press further. Instead, he opted to shift the conversation to something lighter. "So, have you decided what you'll have for dinner later?" he asked with a smile. Lily laughed, grateful for the change of subject. "I think I'll stick with this coffee for now, but who knows? I might end up staying for dinner too." They continued their conversation for a few more minutes, with Lily visibly more relaxed. When she finally decided to leave, Jonathan accompanied her to the door once again. Before stepping out, Lily looked at him with a look of gratitude that spoke louder than words. "Thank you, Jonathan," she said softly. "You really made my day better." Jonathan smiled, touched by her sincerity. "I'm glad to hear that, Lily. I hope to see you again soon." She waved and slowly moved away, disappearing into the bustling crowd on the street. Jonathan stood by the door for a moment, watching her leave, with a growing sense that this wouldn't be the last time they would meet. Lily's apartment, located in downtown Atlanta, was spacious and well-decorated, but also carried an air of solitude. Neutral-toned walls, sleek modern furniture, and large windows that let sunlight flood the space. Despite the beauty around her, there was a palpable sense of emptiness. At 28, Lily was a determined woman. Since the accident that left her in a wheelchair 3 years ago, she had learned to be independent, even if it meant facing the daily limitations of her body. Every movement was carefully planned. Every task, no matter how simple, required more effort than she cared to admit. While she was proud of her independence, there was a price: loneliness. She lived alone, with her family far away. Her parents lived in another city, and the few friends she had were busy with their own lives. Her cat Max was her only constant companion, a perceptive feline who seemed to sense her solitude. He was always nearby, purring softly or snuggling next to her, as if he knew his presence helped fill the emptiness. One afternoon, after a particularly tough day, Lily gazed out the window, watching the hurried people below. There was a weight in her heart that she couldn't ignore. She remembered Jonathan and how, in that brief interaction at the restaurant, she had felt a connection that made her want to step out of her shell, even if just for a moment. Max jumped onto the windowsill, rubbing against Lily for attention. She smiled and petted the cat's head. "At least I have you, don't I, Max?" she murmured, as the cat purred in response. The sound of the phone interrupted her thoughts. She reached for the device, which was on the table next to the sofa, and answered, expecting something trivial. It was her mother, Joan. "Hi, Mom," Lily said, trying to sound more cheerful than she felt. "Lily, dear, how are you?" Her mother's voice was affectionate, but there was an underlying concern Lily knew well. "I'm fine, Mom. Just a little tired. It's been a long day. You need to rest more, dear. You can't keep overworking yourself," Joan advised, as she did in every call. Lily sighed. She knew her mother worried, but sometimes it felt like Joan didn't fully understand her need to keep active despite the challenges. "I know, Mom, but it's hard to stay still. I need to keep moving, or I'll go crazy." There was a pause on the other end of the line before Joan spoke again. "You know, your father and I could come visit for a few days. It's been a while since we've seen each other." Lily bit her lip, knowing her mother only wanted to help, but the idea of being cared for as if she were incapable was deeply troubling. "Thanks, Mom, but you don't need to. I'm okay. Really." Lily tried to sound convincing, Besides, I have Max to keep me company." Her mother chuckled softly, but there was still a note of disappointment in her voice. "All right, dear. But if you need anything, you know you can call us, right?" "I know, Mom." "Thanks," Lily said, feeling the familiar pang of guilt for not letting her parents help more. After hanging up, Lily stared at the phone, deep in thought. She knew her isolation wasn't healthy, but the idea of relying on others for everything was something she couldn't easily accept. Yet Jonathan, with his genuine and carefree kindness, had planted a seed of doubt in her determination to handle everything on her own. That night, as she prepared for bed, Lily found herself thinking about Jonathan again. There was something about him that made her want to get to know him better, perhaps because, like her, he also carried the weight of being different in a world that often didn't accept differences. Max curled up beside her on the bed, and Lily petted him, lost in thought. "Maybe I should go back to Bella Vita soon. Shouldn't I, Max?" she murmured. "Who knows? Maybe talk to Jonathan again." Max purred in agreement, as if he perfectly understood what Lily was saying. And with that, Lily fell asleep, feeling less alone for the first time in a long while, as if a new chapter was beginning in her life. A chapter she could hardly wait to explore. The sun had barely risen, but Jonathan was already up, ready to start another day. He looked at himself in the mirror of his small apartment bathroom, observing the lines of exhaustion around his eyes. At 32, he carried a past that had shaped him but was rarely mentioned to anyone. Jonathan had grown up in a poor neighborhood in Atlanta, where opportunities were scarce and dangers were many. His parents worked long hours to keep the house, and he learned early on to be independent. Despite all the challenges, they had always taught him the importance of education and respect, values he still held dear. His father, a hardworking and proud man, always told him, "Jonathan, never let anyone define your worth. You are the one who decides what you can achieve." These words echoed in Jonathan's mind as he prepared for another day at Bella Vita. Working in such a fancy restaurant, surrounded by people who rarely knew the daily struggles he faced, was both a victory and a constant battle. He knew that, to many, he was just the black waiter, a stereotype he was determined to dismantle through his impeccable work and unwavering kindness. When he arrived at the restaurant that morning, the manager, Robert, was already there, going over the day's preparations. Robert was a demanding but fair man, and although they didn't exchange many words, there was a mutual respect between them. "Good morning, Jonathan," Robert greeted, not looking up from the papers he was holding. "Good morning, sir. Everything ready for today?" Jonathan replied, as he began setting up the tables. Robert nodded. "We have a large reservation for dinner tonight. Everything needs to be perfect. You always do a great job, so I'm relying on you to make sure everything goes smoothly." Jonathan simply smiled and continued with his work. He knew that Robert trusted him, and that was important, but there was something more that motivated him to give his best every day. After a few hours, once the restaurant was finally prepared, Jonathan had a moment to sit down and enjoy a coffee before the customers started arriving. It was during this break that Carlos, another waiter who had worked with him for years, approached. Carlos was a vibrant and friendly Latino with whom Jonathan had built a good friendship. "Man, you never take a break, do you?" Carlos joked, sitting down next to Jonathan. "You should relax a bit more. The world won't end if you're not here for 5 minutes." Jonathan laughed, shaking his head. "You know me, Carlos. I grew up learning that if I want something, I have to work hard for it. And here I am, doing what I can to keep my place." Carlos nodded, but his gaze softened. "I get it, but you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, you know? Everyone here respects you, and it's not just because you're good at what you do. It's because you're a decent guy. That counts for a lot." Jonathan smiled, appreciating his friend's honesty. "Thanks, Carlos. Sometimes I feel like I can't afford to relax, you know? There's still so much I want to achieve." Carlos nodded again, but with a more serious expression. "And what are those plans? What do you really want, Jonathan?" Jonathan was silent for a moment, looking at the coffee cup in his hands. "I want to open my own restaurant someday. A place where everyone is welcome, where I can serve good, simple food, and where people feel at home, no matter where they come from. A place different from Bella Vita, but with the same quality." Carlos smiled, clearly impressed. That's amazing, Jonathan. And with your determination, I have no doubt you'll make it happen. Jonathan smiled back, but his thoughts were far off. He knew that to achieve this dream, he'd have to keep working hard, saving every penny, and perhaps giving up some things along the way. But he was willing to do whatever it took. His past had taught him to fight, and he wasn't planning to give up now. That night, after the last customer had left and the restaurant was quiet again, Jonathan closed his eyes for a moment, letting himself imagine his own place, his own restaurant. He could almost smell the food he would serve, hear the laughter of the customers, and see the satisfied smiles on their faces. But then, he remembered Lily. Something about her had sparked a deeper reflection in him, a desire not just to achieve his own dreams, but also to help others find their way. Perhaps, he thought, Lily was going through the same internal struggle he faced, a silent battle for respect and dignity. As Jonathan turned off the lights at Bella Vita that night, he made a silent promise to himself. He would do his best to be there for Lily, just as he always tried to be for others. After all, as his father always said, a man's worth is measured not just by what he achieves, but by who he helps along the way. Weeks passed, and Jonathan's life continued on its usual course. He kept working tirelessly at Bella Vita, and in his spare time, he dreamed of his future restaurant. Yet, the memory of Lily and their brief interactions at the restaurant lingered in his mind. There was something about her that made him want to know more, understand more. She was like a mystery waiting to be unraveled. One afternoon, while Jonathan was at the counter organizing utensils, the restaurant door opened, and to his surprise, it was Lily. She looked more confident than before, but there was still a shadow of melancholy in her eyes. Jonathan smiled when he saw her. "Hello, Lily. It's great to see you again," he said, moving to help her with the door. Lily smiled in return, clearly pleased to see him too. "Hello, Jonathan. I hope I'm not bothering you. I was in the area and thought I'd drop by." "Not at all. You never bother," Jonathan assured her, pulling out a chair for her at a table near the window. "How are you?" Lily hesitated for a moment before answering, as if weighing her words. "I'm well. I've had some good days. But actually, I came here today because I wanted to ask you something." Jonathan sat down across from her, curious. "Sure, ask me anything." Lily seemed a bit nervous, fiddling with the rings on her fingers before finally speaking. "I was thinking, you mentioned once that you grew up here in Atlanta, right?" Jonathan nodded. "Yes, I was born and raised here. I know the city like the back of my hand." Lily bit her lip, trying to figure out how to approach the topic. "Well, I wanted to get to know Atlanta more, but in a different way. I always see the city from my car or through the window of my apartment, but I feel like I've never really experienced what it has to offer." She paused before continuing. "Would you mind showing me around the city? I mean, how you see it. The places that are important to you, or that you think I should know." Jonathan was surprised by the request. He hadn't expected Lily to invite him to something so personal, but the idea excited him. Showing someone so interested his hometown made him feel honored. "Of course, Lily. I'd love to show you around the city. We can start whenever you'd like." Lily let out a sigh of relief, as if she had been afraid he would refuse. "That's great." She smiled, this time with more confidence. "How about tomorrow? We can start downtown and explore from there." Jonathan nodded, enthusiastic. "Perfect. Tomorrow morning then. I'll pick you up at your apartment. Can you give me the address?" Lily hesitated for a brief moment, but then decided to trust Jonathan. "Sure." She pulled out a piece of paper and a pen from her bag, wrote down the address, and handed it to him. "Here it is." Jonathan read the address and put the paper in his pocket, smiling. "I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure you'll see Atlanta with new eyes." Lily smiled back, looking lighter. "I'm looking forward to it too, Jonathan. Thank you for agreeing." The two continued chatting for a while longer, discussing possible places they could visit, like Piedmont Park, the Beltline, and some of Jonathan's favorite restaurants and cafes. The conversation flowed naturally, as if they were already longtime friends. When Lily was finally ready to leave, Jonathan accompanied her to the door once more. Before she departed, she turned to him with a glimmer of excitement in her eyes. "Thank you again, Jonathan. This means a lot to me." You don't need to thank me, Lily. It'll be a pleasure. See you tomorrow." Lily waved and, with one last smile, walked away, leaving Jonathan standing by the door, watching her go. He felt a mix of emotions, excitement about showing Lily the city and a growing curiosity about what the future might hold for them. That night, as Jonathan lay down to sleep, he couldn't help but think about the next day. For the first time in a long while, he felt that something special was starting to unfold in his life, something beyond his dreams of opening his own restaurant. Lily had entered his life unexpectedly, and he was determined to see what this new connection could mean. The next morning, Jonathan woke up early, more anxious than usual. It was a special day. He was going to show Lily his city, something that, in a way, meant a lot to him. He dressed carefully, opting for a light blue shirt and comfortable jeans, wanting to be both at ease and presentable. Arriving at Lily's apartment, he felt a slight pang of nervousness. He was about to step into more personal territory, and while he was excited, he couldn't ignore the mild apprehension he felt. He rang the doorbell, and soon after, he heard the sound of the door opening. Lily was there, smiling. She was wearing a light, comfortable blouse with a jacket on top, ready for the day. There was a sparkle of enthusiasm in her eyes that Jonathan hadn't seen before. "Good morning, Jonathan," she said, radiant. "I'm so glad you could come." "Good morning, Lily. I'm happy to be here," Jonathan replied with a warm smile. "Ready to explore the city?" "More than ready," Lily said, carefully stepping out and closing the door behind her. "Let's go." They headed to Jonathan's car, a simple but well-maintained sedan. He helped her get in, carefully placing the wheelchair in the trunk. During the brief drive to downtown, they chatted about everything and nothing, with Lily sharing some funny stories about her previous attempts to explore Atlanta on her own. "I once tried to go to the public market," Lily said, laughing. "I thought it would be easy, but it turned out to be a mess. I ended up stuck in a spice section, unable to get through the crowd." Jonathan laughed along with her, picturing the scene. The public market can be a bit overwhelming, especially on weekends. But don't worry, today I'll show you some places where we can relax and enjoy the best of what Atlanta has to offer. Their first stop was Piedmont Park. Jonathan chose it because he knew it was accessible and offered a beautiful view of the city. They parked, and after Jonathan helped Lily with her wheelchair, they began to explore the park. "It's beautiful here," Lily commented, looking around and appreciating the scenery. "I've never been to this park before, you know?" Jonathan looked at her, surprised. "Really? This is one of my favorite spots. I used to come here when I needed some time to think, especially when things got tough." Lily smiled, touched by Jonathan's openness. "I can see why you like it here. It's so peaceful, yet you can still feel the city's vibrancy around you." They walked along the park's paths, stopping occasionally to admire the view or for Jonathan to share stories about the place. As they strolled, Lily began to open up more about her own life. "You know, since the accident, I've always felt a bit trapped. Not just physically, but emotionally too. I used to be such an active person, and accepting that I can't do certain things anymore has been really hard for me." Jonathan looked at her with empathy. "I can't imagine how challenging that must be, Lily. But what matters is that you haven't given up. Even with everything that's happened, you're still here, exploring, living." Lily smiled sadly, but there was determination in her eyes. "Yes, I guess you're right. It's just that sometimes I feel like I've lost a part of myself, you know? The part that was confident, that wasn't afraid of anything." Jonathan stopped for a moment and turned to her. "Lily, what you did today, asking to go out and explore the city, is already a big step. Not everyone has that kind of courage. I know people who face smaller challenges than yours and shut themselves off. But you're here, giving yourself a chance, and that's something to be proud of." Lily looked at him, surprised by the intensity of Jonathan's words. She hadn't expected to hear something like that, and his words touched her deeply. "Thank you, Jonathan," she said softly. "I think I needed to hear that." Jonathan smiled, tilting his head slightly. "Sometimes, we need someone to remind us of what we're capable of. And from what I see, you're capable of much more than you think." They continued walking through the park, and the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Jonathan showed Lily some of his favorite spots, like the lake where he used to sit and reflect, and the picnic area where he and his friends would gather on weekends. Lily was delighted with every detail, soaking in the beauty and tranquility of the place. After a while, they decided to move on to their next stop, the Beltline, a greenway that crosses several neighborhoods in Atlanta and offers a unique view of the city. When they arrived, Lily was impressed by the diversity of people and the different activities along the path. Cyclists, joggers, families strolling, all sharing the vibrant space. "This place is amazing," Lily said as they walked along the path. "It's like Atlanta is alive here, with all this energy." Jonathan agreed, smiling. "Yes, the Beltline is special. It connects the city in a way that few places do. And the best part is that there's something for everyone here." They spent some time exploring the area, stopping to appreciate the street art that decorated the walls along the path. Jonathan explained to Lily how the Beltline had become a symbol of renewal for the city, transforming abandoned areas into vibrant, lively spaces. As the day went on, Jonathan suggested they stop at a small cafe he knew, where they could rest and grab a drink. They sat at an outdoor table, enjoying the gentle breeze as they talked about the places they still wanted to visit. "I'm having such a great time today, Jonathan," Lily said sincerely. "I had no idea Atlanta had so much to offer. And I think, more importantly, I didn't realize I could still enjoy it." Jonathan smiled, pleased to see her so animated. "I'm really glad to hear that, Lily. And we still have so much more to see. This is just the beginning." Lily looked at him, and for the first time in a long while, she felt something inside her starting to ignite again. A spark of hope, of possibility. She knew she still had a long way to go, but at that moment, with Jonathan by her side, she felt that maybe, just maybe, she could find a new path for herself. As they finished their drinks, Jonathan looked at Lily, his heart warmed by the change he saw in her. "You know, Lily, I think this is the start of a new journey for you, and I'm honored to be a part of it." Lily smiled, feeling truly grateful. "I am too, Jonathan. You have no idea how much this means to me. Thank you for showing me that there's still so much to live for." Jonathan nodded, knowing that this friendship that was forming was something special, something he was also eager to see grow. And as the sun began to set, they both understood that this day marked the beginning of a new phase in their lives, a phase full of discoveries and new opportunities. After spending a wonderful day together exploring Atlanta, Jonathan and Lily started meeting more frequently. What had begun as a simple friendship was becoming something deeper, a connection that both cherished and that brought light into their lives in ways they hadn't expected. Jonathan felt inspired by Lily's quiet strength and the way she was beginning to open up to the world again. Lily, in turn, saw Jonathan as a pillar of support and a friend she could rely on, someone who didn't see her just as a woman in a wheelchair but as a complete person. One afternoon, after another city outing, they met at Bella Vita for coffee. Jonathan was arranging the tables when Lily arrived, greeted with a warm smile. "Hello, Lily," Jonathan said, waving for her to join him. "How are you today?" Lily smiled, appreciating the warmth in Jonathan's voice. "I'm good, Jonathan. And you?" "I can't complain. The restaurant's been busy, which is always good." They sat at a table by the window, with a lovely view of the bustling street. As they sipped their coffee, the conversation flowed naturally, as it always did between them. Jonathan noticed that Lily seemed a bit more contemplative than usual, as if she had something on her mind. "Lily, is everything okay? You seem a little distant today," he asked, with a note of concern. Lily hesitated, looking at her coffee cup before meeting Jonathan's eyes. "Jonathan, I need to tell you something I've been keeping to myself for a while." Jonathan leaned in slightly, attentive. "Of course, Lily. You can tell me anything." She took a deep breath, as if preparing for a significant effort. "When I gave you the keys to my apartment, I was actually planning something bigger. I wanted you to understand why I was asking you for this, and I think it's time to explain." Jonathan looked at her, curious and a bit apprehensive. "I'm listening, Lily. What's going on?" Lily swallowed hard before continuing. "Jonathan, I'm sick. Very sick. And it's not just because of the accident. I have a degenerative condition. My body is slowly deteriorating, and the doctors say it's only a matter of time. That's why I gave you those keys, along with the letter you haven't read yet." Jonathan sat still, processing what he had just heard. The revelation hit him like a stone in his stomach, and he felt a lump form in his throat. "Lily," he began, his voice thick with emotion. I didn't know. I'm so sorry." Lily smiled sadly, reaching out to take his hand. "I know, and I didn't want you to find out this way, but I realized I can't keep this from you anymore. I need someone to trust, someone who will be there if things get worse. And I trust you, Jonathan." Jonathan gently squeezed her hand, feeling a whirlwind of emotions. He looked at Lily, seeing the vulnerability in her eyes and understanding how difficult it must have been for her to share this. "Lily, I'm here for you. I'll always be here." But he hesitated, searching for the right words. "Are you sure there's nothing that can be done? No treatment?" Lily shook her head, the sadness evident on her face. "The doctors have tried everything, but the truth is, there's no cure. I'm trying to live the best way I can, but sometimes it's hard, especially now that I feel like I've finally started to live again, thanks to you." Jonathan felt a wave of sadness mixed with a desire to do something, anything, to help. "Lily, I'm not going to let you go through this alone. I promise I'll be by your side, no matter what happens." Lily smiled, her eyes welling up. "Thank you, Jonathan. I didn't expect anything less from you." They sat in silence for a moment, each lost in their own thoughts. For Jonathan, Lily's revelation brought a new perspective on their friendship. He realized that beyond being a friend, he wanted to be a support for her, someone to help her face whatever came next. "You know, Lily, when I was a kid, my dad always used to say that life is short and we need to make the most of every moment. He always said that no matter what happens, we should fight for what we love, for the people who matter to us. And you, Lily, matter to me. A lot." Lily looked at Jonathan, her heart touched by his words. "You matter to me too, Jonathan, and that's why I'm so grateful to have you in my life." They exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. Jonathan knew that from that moment on, his friendship with Lily had changed. He was no longer just a friend. He was a support, an anchor in the storm Lily was facing, and he was determined to be there for her in every way he could. That night, after Lily had gone home, Jonathan finally opened the letter she had left with the apartment keys. The words Lily had written with such care resonated in his mind as he read. She spoke of her fears, her hopes, and, above all, the gratitude she felt for having him in her life. The letter touched him deeply, reaffirming his decision to stand by her, no matter what the future held. Jonathan kept the letter carefully, knowing that Lily's words would be a constant reminder of his promise. He knew the road ahead would be difficult, but he was ready to face the challenges that came. Because above all, he wanted to be there for Lily, just as she had been for him, even without realizing it. As the days went by, Jonathan and Lily's friendship grew stronger and deeper. Lily's revelation about her condition had changed their dynamic, but in a way that only brought them closer. Jonathan was determined to make the moments Lily still had filled with joy, comfort, and, above all, meaning. One Saturday afternoon, Jonathan decided to take Lily to one of his favorite spots, the Atlanta Botanical Garden. He knew Lily loved nature and thought it would be the perfect place for a peaceful time together. When they arrived, the sun was shining, and the garden was filled with flowers of every color, creating a stunning landscape. "This place is beautiful, Jonathan," Lily commented as they walked along a path lined with vibrant tulips. "I can't believe I've never been here before." Jonathan smiled, pleased to see the joy in Lily's eyes. "I knew you'd like it. This is one of my retreats in the city. When things get tough, I come here to breathe, to remind myself that there's still beauty in the world." Lily looked around, soaking in the serenity of the place. "I can understand why you love it here so much. It's so peaceful, as if nothing bad could happen while you're here." Jonathan nodded, guiding her to a wooden bench under the shade of a leafy tree. "Exactly. And today, I wanted you to feel that peace too." They sat on the bench, watching the slow movement of the garden around them. Lily closed her eyes for a moment, letting the gentle breeze touch her face. When she opened them again, she looked at Jonathan, her gaze filled with a mixture of gratitude and sadness. Jonathan, I've been thinking a lot about what's going to happen to me, about what I want to leave behind. Jonathan looked at her attentively, recognizing the seriousness of her words. And what have you been thinking, Lily? Lily took a deep breath before continuing. I've realized that, more than anything, I want the people I love to remember me not for my illness, but for who I was before all of this. For who I still am. Really. I want them to know that, despite all the struggles, I tried to live the best way I could. Jonathan squeezed her hand, feeling the weight of her words. I'm sure everyone who knows you will remember you exactly like that, Lily, because that's how I see you. An incredible person, full of strength and courage. And I know others see that too. Lily smiled faintly, but there was a melancholy in her eyes. Thank you, Jonathan. You don't know how much that means to me. They were silent for a while, each lost in their own thoughts. Jonathan knew Lily was grappling with her own demons, and all he wanted was to be by her side, offering as much comfort as he could. Jonathan, Lily finally broke the silence, her voice soft. I have a request for you. Anything, Lily. You know that. She hesitated, as if trying to find the right words. I would like you to be there with me, until the end. I know it's a lot to ask, but I don't want to be alone when that time comes. And you're the person I trust the most right now. Lily's words struck Jonathan deeply. He knew that request came from the most vulnerable and sincere place in her heart. The thought of losing Lily, of seeing her go, was painful, but he also knew he couldn't let her face it alone. I'll be there, Lily. I promise, he replied firmly. No matter what happens, you won't be alone. I'll be by your side, until the end. Lily nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Thank you, Jonathan. I don't know what I would do without you. And you don't have to find out, he said softly. We'll face this together, one day at a time. Lily smiled through her tears, feeling a wave of relief and comfort knowing she wasn't alone. Together, she repeated, gripping Jonathan's hand tighter. After a while, they continued exploring the garden, but the conversation took a lighter turn. Jonathan made sure to keep the atmosphere relaxed, joking about flowers he barely knew the names of and sharing funny stories from his childhood. Lily laughed at his jokes and felt the weight on her heart lift, even if only temporarily. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, they found themselves in a small clearing in the garden, where a fountain bubbled softly. Jonathan stopped and looked at Lily, the moment capturing something profound between them. You know, Lily, I've always believed that people come into our lives for a reason, he began, his voice gentle. And you came into my life in such an unexpected way, but I feel like, somehow, we were meant to meet. Lily smiled, feeling the warmth of Jonathan's words touch her heart. I believe that too, Jonathan, and I couldn't be more grateful for it. They stayed there for a while longer, savoring the tranquility of the moment. The sound of the bubbling fountain, combined with the soft chirping of the birds, created an atmosphere of peace and understanding. They both knew there were still challenges ahead, but at that moment, all that mattered was that they were together. And that connection, more than anything else, gave them the strength to face whatever came next. After their visit to the botanical garden, Jonathan and Lily began seeing each other almost every day. The friendship between them, already strong, evolved into an even deeper connection, based on mutual trust and the desire to make the most of the time they had together. Jonathan made it a point to take Lily to different places around the city, helping her create new memories, while she, in turn, shared more about her life before the accident, her dreams, and her struggles. One afternoon, while they were at Lily's apartment, she brought up a topic she had been avoiding for some time. Jonathan, I've been thinking a lot about my family, she said, sitting on the couch with a serious expression. I haven't seen my parents since the accident. They tried to reconnect, but I pushed them away. And now, I feel like I need to resolve this before it's too late. Jonathan sat down next to her, noticing the tension in her shoulders. Lily, this is important. I understand why you pushed them away, but maybe now is the right time to reconnect with them. What do you think about trying? Lily sighed, her eyes fixed on her hands. I don't know. Part of me is afraid to face them. They've always been so controlling, always wanting to decide what's best for me. When the accident happened, It felt like I was finally out of their control, but at the same time, I felt alone. It's hard to explain. Jonathan placed a comforting hand on hers. It doesn't have to be today or tomorrow, Lily, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm here, and if you want, I can be by your side when the time comes. She looked at him, her eyes full of gratitude. Would you do that for me? Of course, Lily. We're in this together, remember? Jonathan replied with an encouraging smile. Lily nodded, feeling a bit more relieved. Maybe it's time. I just need a little more courage to make that call. A few days later, Lily finally decided to reach out to her parents. She was nervous, but Jonathan helped her prepare, offering words of support and assuring her he would be there, no matter what happened. Lily picked up the phone, her hands trembling slightly, and dialed the number she knew so well. Hello? Her mother's voice came through the line, and Lily felt a lump in her throat. Mom, it's me, Lily. There was a silence, followed by an audible sigh from her mother. Lily. Oh my God, Lily. Is it really you? Yes, Mom. It's me. I know it's been a while, and I'm sorry for that. I needed time. You don't need to apologize, dear. Her mother's voice was choked with emotion. I'm just so happy you called. Your dad and I think about you every day. We want so much to see you. Lily swallowed hard, feeling tears start to form in her eyes. I want to see you too. Can we meet? Of course, dear, of course. Whenever you want. We're ready to come to you anytime. Lily looked at Jonathan, who nodded encouragingly. How about we meet tomorrow? Maybe at the park we used to go to when I was a child? Lily suggested. That sounds perfect, Lily. We'll be there. After hanging up the phone, Lily turned to Jonathan, her eyes shining with mixed emotions. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm glad I took this step. And thank you, Jonathan, for being by my side. Jonathan smiled and pulled Lily into a gentle hug. You're stronger than you think, Lily. Tomorrow will be tough, but necessary. And remember, no matter what happens, I'm here with you. The next day, Jonathan and Lily headed to the park where she had arranged to meet her parents. Lily was visibly nervous, fidgeting with her hands and looking around constantly. Jonathan tried to ease the tension, holding her hand as they walked. It's going to be okay, Lily. Breathe deeply, one step at a time. They arrived at a clearing in the park where her parents were already waiting, sitting on a bench. When Lily saw them, her heart raced. They looked older, more tired, but the love in their eyes was unmistakable. Lily, her mother exclaimed, getting up quickly and rushing to hug her daughter. The hug was tight and filled with tears, and for a moment, all the time they had been apart seemed to dissolve. Mom, Dad, Lily said, her voice choked, as her father also came forward to embrace her. We're so happy you called us dear, her father said, with tears in his eyes. We've missed you every day. Jonathan stayed a little behind, giving Lily and her parents the space they needed to reconnect. He watched the scene with a subtle smile, feeling he was witnessing a pivotal moment in Lily's life. After the emotional reunion, the four of them sat on a nearby bench and began to talk. Lily opened her heart to her parents, explaining why she had distanced herself and talking about the challenges she had faced since the accident. Her parents listened attentively, their faces full of regret and sorrow for not having been there for her. We should have done more, Lily, her mother said, wiping away her tears. We should have fought harder to be by your side, even when you pushed us away. I know, Mom, but at the time, I needed space. I didn't want anyone to see me like that, broken and fragile, Lily responded, her voice soft but firm. But you weren't broken, dear. You've always been strong, even in the toughest times, her father said, taking her hand. And we're here now, for whatever you need. Lily nodded, feeling a sense of peace begin to settle in her heart. Thank you. I need you now more than ever, and I'm ready to let you back into my life. Jonathan, who had been silent until now, finally joined them, sitting next to Lily. My parents, this is Jonathan, Lily said, introducing him with a smile. He's been a great friend to me, someone I trust completely. Lily's parents looked at Jonathan with expressions of gratitude. Jonathan, we can't thank you enough for what you've done for our daughter, Lily's father said, shaking Jonathan's hand. We know she's in good hands with you by her side." Jonathan smiled, feeling honored. "Lily is an amazing person, and I'm glad to be here for her. Whatever comes next, I know we can face it together." The reunion continued, with the four of them talking and sharing memories from the past, while they began to build new memories together. Lily felt that, for the first time in a long while, there was a real chance for healing. Not just physical, but emotional as well. And with Jonathan and her parents by her side, she knew she wouldn't face the challenges ahead alone. The meeting with Lily's parents was a milestone in her life, bringing a renewed sense of hope and reconciliation. The following days were filled with a renewed sense of optimism, both for Lily and for Jonathan. Lily was relieved to have mended her relationship with her parents and was eager to see how this would impact her future. However, as Lily began to rebuild her relationship with her family, Jonathan was also dealing with his own changes. He was adjusting to the new dynamics of his friendship with Lily, which now included the involvement of her parents and the emotional complexities that came with it. One afternoon, while they were at Lily's apartment, Jonathan and Lily were talking about how they were adjusting to this new phase of their lives. "I still can't believe I managed to make peace with my parents," Lily said, as she sorted through some old photos in a box. "It feels like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders." Jonathan smiled, looking at her with affection. "I think it was a big step too, Lily, and I'm so glad I could be with you through this process." Lily paused for a moment and looked at Jonathan with a contemplative gaze. "Have you ever had an experience like this, Jonathan? Have you ever had to face old wounds or reconcile with someone?" Jonathan thought for a moment before responding. "Actually, yes. When my dad passed away, my brother and I had to confront a lot of old resentments we had with each other. There was so much left unsaid, so much unresolved. And it was only when we started talking openly about our feelings and memories that we found a place of understanding and forgiveness." Lily looked at him, curious. "How did you manage to get past it?" "It was a difficult process, but we started to remember the good times we had together, instead of focusing only on the fights and misunderstandings. We also sought help. We went to family therapy. It was important for us to have a safe space to express our feelings and resolve what needed to be resolved," Jonathan explained. Lily nodded, seeming to reflect on her own experiences. "I think understanding and confronting those old wounds can be really liberating. I'm starting to see that now, after meeting with my parents." Jonathan smiled, seeing the progress Lily was making. "And you're doing a great job, Lily. Sometimes, facing the past is the first step to moving forward and finding a new way to live." As they talked, Lily's phone rang, interrupting the moment. She glanced at the screen and saw it was a call from her mother. "Oh, it looks like my mom is calling me," Lily said, a bit nervous. "I'll answer." She took the call, and after a brief conversation, she hung up with a smile. "My mom invited me to a family dinner next week. It seems they want to celebrate the fact that we're reconnecting," Lily said, visibly excited. Jonathan smiled, supporting her decision. "That's wonderful, Lily. It will be a great opportunity to strengthen those bonds and create new memories with them." As Lily began preparing for the family dinner, Jonathan helped her choose an outfit and prepare some desserts to bring. It was an important event, and he wanted to make sure Lily felt comfortable and confident. "Jonathan, I really don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for me," Lily said, as he helped her pick out a dress. "Lily, you don't need to thank me. I'm here because I want to be here. And seeing you find a new beginning, reconnecting with your family, is a gift to me as well," Jonathan replied, adjusting her dress with a smile. When the day of the dinner arrived, Lily was nervous but also excited. Jonathan accompanied her to her parents' house, where they were welcomed with warmth and affection. The atmosphere was cheerful and inviting, and everyone was eager to spend time together. "Lily, you look beautiful," her mother said, embracing her affectionately. "We're so happy to have you here." "Thank you, Mom," Lily replied, smiling. The dinner was a mix of laughter, conversation, and touching moments. Lily and her parents shared old stories and laughed about past memories, while Jonathan blended in well, showing support and understanding. Jonathan's presence beside Lily brought a sense of balance and peace to the evening. At the end of the night, as everyone was sitting on the couch, chatting and enjoying dessert, Lily felt a wave of gratitude. Her connection with her parents was growing stronger, and Jonathan's presence by her side was a constant reminder that she wasn't alone. "Jonathan," Lily said after a moment of silence, "thank you for being here today. It means so much to me." Jonathan smiled, looking at Lily and her parents. "It's my pleasure, Lily, and I hope we can keep creating memories like this together." Lily's parents looked at Jonathan with grateful expressions, acknowledging the important role he played in their daughter's life. "Jonathan, we're really grateful to have you in Lily's life," her father said, raising a glass and a toast. "Thank you for everything you've done for her." "I'm the one who should thank you for letting me be a part of your lives," Jonathan replied, raising his glass. "And I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds for us." The dinner ended with a feeling of hope and renewal. As Lily and Jonathan said their goodbyes and headed home, Lily felt she was taking important steps toward a brighter future. She knew that although the path ahead would still be challenging, she had people who loved and supported her by her side. Jonathan looked at Lily, seeing the happiness and peace on her face. "So, how are you feeling now after the dinner?" Lily smiled, feeling light. "I'm feeling great. I think I'm finally starting to find the balance between the past and the future. And, more importantly, I feel like I can face anything knowing that I have you by my side." Jonathan smiled, holding Lily's hand with affection. "And I'll be here, always. We'll face this together, one day at a time." As they drove home, the sky was lit with a soft glow from the moon, reflecting the hope and renewal that were beginning to blossom in Lily's life. And with Jonathan by her side, she knew she was ready to face whatever came with courage and determination. Lily and Jonathan's lives continued to evolve after the family dinner. Their bond was stronger than ever, and Lily was working hard to balance her time between her newfound family reconciliations and Jonathan's ongoing support. However, despite the good intentions and progress, the reality of Lily's condition was beginning to pose a more present challenge. One Tuesday morning, Lily was particularly tired. Jonathan had offered to come over to her house to help with some tasks and spend time together. When he arrived, he found Lily in the kitchen, struggling to reach a cereal box on a high shelf. "Need a hand there?" Jonathan asked with a friendly smile as he approached. Lily looked at him, a bit embarrassed, and smiled. "I was trying to reach that, but it seems like the shelf has a life of its own today." She chuckled softly. "Thanks, Jonathan." Jonathan grabbed the box and placed it on the table. "Always here to help." He looked at Lily with concern. "How are you feeling today?" Lily sighed, stirring the cereal in her bowl with a tired expression. "To be honest, I'm more tired than usual. The past few weeks have been exciting, but also very draining. Sometimes, it feels like I'm fighting a constant battle to stay well." Jonathan sat down at the table with her. "I understand, Lily. Remember, you don't have to face everything alone. We're in this together, and I'm here to support you, no matter what." Lily smiled gratefully, her expression softening a bit. "I know, and I really appreciate that, Jonathan. Sometimes it's easy to forget that there are people who care and are willing to help." As they talked, Lily's phone rang. She looked at the screen and saw it was the medical office. Her heart began to race, and she hesitated before answering. "Hello?" Lily said, trying to stay calm. The medical assistant's voice on the other end was clear and professional. "Hi, Lily. We just wanted to confirm that your follow-up appointment is scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m. We also want to remind you to bring all your medical documents and any updated information about your symptoms." Lily confirmed the information, hung up, and looked at Jonathan with a pale face. "It's tomorrow, the follow-up exam. Sometimes, I get so anxious before these appointments. I don't know what to expect." Jonathan stood up and approached her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Remember, you've faced many challenges before, and this is just another step. I'll be there with you, and regardless of what the results show, we'll face it together." Lily looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Jonathan. I really don't know what I'd do without you." The next morning, Jonathan and Lily went to the medical office. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, and Lily was clearly nervous. Jonathan made sure to keep the mood light and comforting. "I brought a little surprise for you," he said, pulling out a coloring book and some crayons from a bag. "I thought this might help distract you a bit before the exam." Lily looked at him with a grateful smile, a bit relieved by the distraction. "That's so thoughtful of you." "Thank you, Jonathan." While they waited, Jonathan chatted with Lily about light and funny things, trying to help ease her anxiety. When it was time for Lily to go in for the exam, Jonathan accompanied her to the room and waited outside, keeping in touch with her through text messages. After the exam, Lily came out with an expression of relief mixed with worry. "How was it?" Jonathan asked, standing up to meet her. Lily took a deep breath before answering. "The exam was quick. The doctor said it might take a few days for the results, but she didn't see anything alarming in the initial exam. I feel a bit more relieved, but I still have to wait for the final results." Jonathan held Lily's hand firmly. "Waiting can be the hardest part, but remember, you have the support of everyone around you, and I'll be here every step of the way." Lily smiled, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. "Thank you, Jonathan. I really don't know how I'd get through this without you." Jonathan smiled, giving her a quick hug. "I'll always be here for you. We'll get through this together." In the following days, Lily and Jonathan continued their normal routine, trying to stay focused on activities that brought joy and distraction. They went to a small cafe that Lily loved and took walks in the local park, enjoying the time outdoors. Finally, when the test results arrived, Lily was nervous, but Jonathan was by her side, offering support. She called the medical office, and the nurse on the other end informed her that the results were within normal parameters and there were no signs of worsening. "So, the news is good?" Jonathan asked, seeing Lily's expression as she finished the call. Lily smiled, relieved and emotional. "Yes, it's good. The exam didn't show any significant changes. I still need to continue with the treatment, but at least there are no new complications." Jonathan hugged her enthusiastically, celebrating the news. "That's amazing, Lily. You did an incredible job facing all of this. Let's enjoy this moment." They spent the rest of the day celebrating the good news, enjoying a special meal and laughing about the little things in life. Lily's journey was far from over, but she knew that with Jonathan by her side and her family's support, she was more prepared than ever to face whatever came next. And as the challenges continued, she also found new ways to hope and find joy amidst the adversity. As the months went by, Lily and Jonathan settled into a new and comfortable rhythm. Their relationship was stronger than ever, and Lily was finding a balance between her responsibilities and the new opportunities emerging in her life. The good news about her exams had brought significant relief, allowing her to focus more on her projects and personal goals. One Saturday afternoon, Lily was sitting in her office, working on a personal project she had been putting off for some time. Jonathan was by her side, helping her review some documents and offering suggestions. They had decided to transform Lily's workspace, making it more accessible and inspiring. "Jonathan, I really don't know how I would have done this without your help," Lily smiled, looking at the work they were doing. "You have a talent for organizing and transforming spaces." Jonathan laughed, looking around at the newly renovated office. "I'm just happy to see you so excited about the project. It's great to see you finding a new purpose and passion. Is this something you've always wanted to do?" Lily nodded, glancing at the materials she had carefully arranged. "Yes, I've always wanted to work in design and creating spaces. It's a passion I've always had, but never had the chance to pursue. Now, I feel like it's the right time to dedicate myself to it." Jonathan watched her with a smile. "So, what are you planning to do with this new space? Any specific projects in mind?" Lily hesitated for a moment, looking thoughtful. "Actually, I'm thinking of starting a small interior design business. A place where I can help people create environments that really work for them, tailored to their needs and lifestyles." Jonathan was impressed and excited by the idea. "That's fantastic, Lily. Have you thought about how you're going to start? Any ideas on how you'll promote your work?" Lily smiled, visibly enthusiastic. "I'm starting to plan a marketing strategy and considering creating a website to showcase my portfolio. I also want to offer free consultations to begin building a client base and get feedback." Jonathan nodded, supporting the idea. "That sounds like a great plan. If you need help setting up the website or anything else, count on me. I'd love to help bring this idea to life." As they discussed the project details, Lily's phone rang. She answered, and upon hearing the voice on the other end, Her face lit up with a smile. "Hello, Mom. What a surprise to hear from you." The conversation continued for a few minutes, and Lily seemed increasingly excited. When she hung up, Jonathan looked at her curiously. "It sounds like you got some good news. What happened?" Lily smiled, her joy evident in her eyes. "My mom called to invite me to an art event happening in the city next month. They're hosting a local art exhibition, and she wants me to participate with some of my creations. She believes it could be a great opportunity to start showcasing my work to the public." Jonathan was visibly excited by the news. "That's amazing, Lily. It's a perfect chance to show your skills and start building your reputation. And I'm more than happy to go with you and support your work." Lily looked at him with a grateful sparkle in her eyes. "That means a lot to me, Jonathan. Having your support and encouragement is a crucial part of this new chapter in my life." As the event approached, Lily and Jonathan continued to work together on the design project, preparing for the exhibition and getting ready for what the future held. The opening of the exhibition was a success, with many visitors showing interest and giving enthusiastic feedback on Lily's work. At the event, while Lily was busy talking to potential clients and other artists, Jonathan was by her side, helping to answer questions and offer support. He was proud to see her shine and receive recognition for her passion and talent. When the event came to a close and the visitors began to disperse, Lily and Jonathan found a quiet corner of the space, exhausted but happy. "I can't believe how well everything went," Lily said, still radiant. "It exceeded all my expectations." Jonathan smiled, hugging her. "I knew you'd do great. You have an incredible talent, and people clearly saw that. I'm so happy for you." Lily leaned against him, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment and gratitude. "Thank you for being here for me, Jonathan. I couldn't have done it without you." Jonathan looked at her with affection. "I'll always be here for you, Lily, and I can't wait to see where this new journey takes you. The future is full of possibilities, and I'm sure you'll achieve even more." As they left the event and walked together under the soft night light, Lily felt that she was finally on the right path. She knew there would still be challenges and tough moments ahead, but she was confident that with Jonathan by her side and her family's support, she was ready to face whatever came. The future looked promising, and Lily was excited to continue her journey, exploring new opportunities and making a difference in people's lives through her work. And with Jonathan as her partner and constant support, she knew she was well equipped to tackle any challenge that came her way.